answer that. Used to be I would go hemina. We're at 765. Wait, I gotta get gotta get started on time. I'll answer that in a second. Here we go. We're rolling.
I need ribs to ease my day. I need to find time to cook them right. My papa said, can't hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. He said ribs.
And now, at your service, here to help you cook and eat like royalty is the barbecue whisperer and hedonism evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.
Boiled slabs must I stand before I find the crunch to let me live again. Right now, the only thing.
Well, welcome everyone. Tonight, I thought I would commence the conversation, as I often do. I often start rumbling on about a topic, and then we go free for all and answer everybody's questions. But tonight's topic's going to be corned beef and pastrami. But I typically log in about 15-20 minutes before things start officially, just to make sure all the hooks and bells and whistles are working. And we were just chatting before we got officially rolling, and Keith Davis was just asking if I could only have one cooker, what would it be? And usually the answer is, well, who's your favorite child or something like that, because there's so many good cookers out there, and I have many, and I like them, and I use them all, and I use them for different things. But my all-time, all-round favorite, if I could only have one desert island cooker, would be one of the Hasty Bakes. Hasty Bake is out of Tulsa, and this is a design. The original design, I think, was 1948, and it hasn't changed a lot. They have really upgraded it, modernized it, but it's a charcoal grill. It has a number of features that I really like about charcoal grills. First of all, it's easy to light, which is, why a lot of people don't do charcoal grills, because they're a little pain to light, really easy to clean up. Another reason why a lot of people don't like charcoal grills. But the cool thing is there's a crank on it, and you can lower and raise the charcoal, and that's temperature control, and cooking is all about temperature control. And so it's really cool. It's also big. It's a rectangular cooking surface. I love my Weber kettle. I use it a lot, but it's a round surface, and this rectangular surface holds a lot more, and it's really easy to divide into two zones. And I was talking earlier with somebody, Owen, in England. We have somebody from London here, and he's getting a Kamado. And Kamados are fantastic. They do wonderful things. They're ovens. They're great ovens, particularly here in the cold climates. I'm in the Chicago area. It snowed today, and it's going to snow tomorrow. I've gotten more mileage out of my snowblower this year than I have out of my car. But they're fantastic in this cold weather. But they're round, and they're really hard to set up in two zones. Now, the kettle, which is round, is pretty easy to set up in two zones. And I really think two zone is essential for good grilling. You have to be able to have an indirect heat zone, which is away from the flame, where things cook by warm air circulating. That's convection air. And then you have to have a section where you can cook directly over glowing coals or flame, like on a gas grill. And that's infrared radiation. And those two different kinds of energy, they're different kinds of heat. They're drastically different, and they're really important. And being able to control what kind of heat you have is vital. And it's really hard to get a round Kamado, like a big green egg, set up in two zones. There are ways to do it, and you can do it, but it's tricky, and there's fussing and fiddling. The thing about the hasty bake is that it's really easy to set up in 2 zones. Push all the coal to one side. You can put a metal plate over the coal. You can raise and lower the coal. And they have a range of prices. They're not cheap. They're built in the USA. They're hand welded in Tulsa. Their top of the line unit is like $3,500 or something like that. But they're just absolutely friggin' awesome. And they can do everything. And you can smoke on them. So it's both a grill and a smoker. And one of the things I like about charcoal smokers is there's different ways of configuration. A lot of them are the offset smoker, where you have the firebox off on one side, and then you have the cooking chamber. And you've seen them. They look like 2 tubes, horizontal tubes, and little box on one side where the flame are. What's really cool when you're smoking with charcoal is when the fat can drip onto the charcoal. And when the fat can drip onto the charcoal, it vaporizes and goes back up and flavors the meat. And that's a unique flavor, and it's a special flavor that you can only get in a configuration where you're up above the charcoal. And if you go to Texas, you notice a lot of those big brick pits that they cook on, they're 3 or 4 feet above the charcoal, but they're directly above the charcoal. And I remember when I was just coming up into the barbecue world, I remember stumbling into a debate on one of the message boards about Dreamland, the barbecue restaurant in Tuscaloosa, home of the University of Alabama. And they have a really old, they've been around forever, they have a really old brick pit, and they're cooking directly above the coals. And all the barbecue snobs, and I hate to say this, but there is a snob movement in barbecue that parallels that which I saw in the wine world. And if you don't know, let me tell you, I was at one time the wine critic for the Chicago Tribune and the Washington Post, and I published a magazine about wine. So I know a little bit about wine, and I've met my share of wine snobs. And I got to tell you, there is a movement in the barbecue world that scares the hell out of me, because there are just a lot of goddamn barbecue snobs out there, and we don't need them. But they used to whine about the Dreamland because it was direct heat cooking. Oh no, barbecue has to be indirect. No, it doesn't have to be indirect. The definition of barbecue is really elusive, and I've attempted to do so, by the way. Go to AmazingRibs.com and search for the definition of barbecue. Basically, if it's got flame and it's got smoke, it's barbecue, and I don't care if it's hamburgers or hot dogs or brisket. It's all barbecue. I mean, my definition is pretty darn broad. You give me your definition, and I'll shoot it down in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, so that is answer Keith. I hope. You guys got to know. I see Dan Mancuso. You've been here, I think, every one I've done. You just put a nickel in the machine, wind me up, and away I go. So Brad led with out of California. He's talking about walking around in flip-flops. You son of a bitch. He's a wino. I know that. I'm drinking a Rioja Chero Enon. We open a bottle almost every night at dinner, and I know a little bit about wine, but I know this: to get great wine, you got to know a great wine merchant, because it's always changing. It's hard to keep track of it. And my wine merchant, she knows me very well. She knows my taste well, and she recommended. I really like it a lot. I bought a case of it, and it's under $15, I think. So. Brad loves Rioja. Who doesn't love Rioja? I mean, it's a real taste of the old world. They make it the old-fashioned way most of the time. Okay, so tonight I figured I would do my opening rant or monologue. You remember Jay Leno and Carson before him? We start with a little monologue. And tonight's monologue, we're coming up on St. Patrick's Day. And I want to tell you, you gotta use your grill. Now we'll talk about first corned beef and then pastrami. But we'll get to pastrami, so I'm going to do that second because corned beef has to come first. But I want to presage my comments by saying the ultimate form of beef brisket is not Texas brisket, not in my book. It's pastrami. I prefer pastrami to Texas brisket 9 times out of, and I've had the best briskets in Texas and around the country, and I love them. I love them dearly. I cook them all the time. But great pastrami is just a special experience, and it's not hard to do. In fact, it's easier to do than brisket. So we'll get there in a second, though. Corned beef. Just a little history here because I'm a history buff. But the process of corning is the process of curing with a preservative. It comes from pre-refrigeration days when people would slaughter a hog. Usually you killed a hog in November or December when it was getting cold, and then you could hang the meat in your cellar or the barn where it was cold, and it would be like being in the refrigerator. But that wasn't always enough, and you often had to salt it. And when you salted the meat, it pulled moisture out, and that helped prevent bacterial growth. Bacteria don't like salty environments to begin with, and they need a wet, moist environment. So if you salted a leg of ham, you could get it to dehydrate a bit, and you can get it salty, and that's the process of making prosciutto di Parma and Smithfield ham, and so on. And of course, bacon came about from that. Well, they eventually came upon using a compound that sodium nitrite. Sodium nitrite was an addition to the salt, which acted as a preservative. It is a preservative, and it helps preserve the meat and also turns it pink. And that's why your hot dogs are pink, why corned beef is pink, why ham is pink, why bacon is pink. They're all treated with sodium nitrite. Now, I know you've seen in your grocery store bacon with no preservatives added. Well, what they're doing is they're using a celery product which is loaded with sodium nitrite, and they can't control the amount. If you're concerned about your nitrite consumption, which you probably shouldn't be unless you're eating bacon every morning for breakfast, these natural cures are less controlled than cures that are made with sodium nitrite. So don't be sucked in and fooled by this natural cure or no sodium or no nitrite or no preservative stuff. They're lying, they're fooling, they're cheating. Okay, so the process of corning is the process of curing with sodium nitrite. And so corned beef used to be beef that was cured with sodium nitrite. Now, the Irish and the Jewish both lived together in Lower Manhattan, side by side in the ghettos down there. The Irish came over, and they were used to cured ham. But of course, Jewish people didn't eat pork products, so they cured beef. And they had all the butcher shops down in Lower Manhattan, so the Irish immediately switched over to cured beef. And that's how corned beef became the meat of choice on St. Patrick's Day instead of corned ham, as it is in Ireland. So corned beef, and it was often, it's from the belly of the animal. It was often called the navel cut, which is pretty far back, but the navel cut has got a lot of connective tissue and a lot of really tough connective tissue, a lot of gristle and chewy stuff. It's a rough cut. The best corned beef nowadays is made from brisket. Now, if you go to Katz's Deli in Manhattan, which is renowned by pastrami lovers around the world, they're still using navel down there, but they're getting the very best navel cuts. I recommend that if you really want to have fun, get yourself a good beef brisket and cure it yourself, corn it yourself. And I have the procedure on AmazingRibs.com. It's tricky. You're dealing with a preservative. You've got to buy this particular product. It's called pink salt. And do not confuse the curing salt, pink salt, with sodium nitrite with Himalayan pink salt, which is just a regular old sodium chloride pink colored salt from the Himalayan mountains, actually from Pakistan. They're different. The pink salt that you want for curing, you can get it at Bass Pro and a lot of places where hunters go, and it's on Amazon, has this sodium nitrite in it, and they color it pink just so you don't accidentally mistake it for regular salt, because too much of this preservative is not good for your tummy, and in fact way too much can actually make you sick. So you want to use it judiciously, and we talk about it at length. It's there's a curing calculator and everything, but if you want to make your own bacon, and it's not terribly hard, or your own ham, or your own Canadian bacon, or Irish bacon, or Disney turkey legs, if you've ever been to Disney World and you get those giant cured turkey legs, we have the recipes for them all, and you need to use this calculator to weigh it and figure out how to do it. You can cure your own, and I got to tell you, home cured bacon is really good. It doesn't have the crunch that store-bought bacon. It's not hard. It's more flexible, and I like that, frankly. I don't like my bacon really hard and crunchy. But check those recipes out and use the curing calculator. And soon this year, we're going to build the calculator into each recipe. It's not there yet, but we're getting better at it. So a long story short is you can make your own corned beef. Now, if you're making corned beef and cabbage for St. Patrick's Day, there's a couple of tricks to getting it right. Because the stuff is heavily salted and it's used with this pink salt, which is an additional salt, it's very, very salty. And you know that after you're done eating corned beef and cabbage, you're up all night drinking water. And then you get up to go to the bathroom. The secret here is to remove some of that salt before you cook it. And there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can just take the corned beef, open up the vacuum sealed bag, throw out the seasoning packet. It doesn't do you any good. And just put it in a big pot with cold water in the fridge and change the water every 3, 4, 6 hours. And the water, you'll see, is getting pink. It's sucking out the salt by osmosis. And it pulls out the salt, and you're now desalinating it. And the result is very tasty. It's just a lot less salty. And in fact, it's better that way. You'll know, you'll taste it. I've had dozens and dozens of people write to me and say, oh my God, once I desalinate my corned beef, it's so much better. There's another way to desalinate it, and that is while you're cooking it. You're going to cook it in a pot of water. All right, do not boil the water. When you boil the water, the proteins shrink and contract, and the corned beef sucks up into this little tight ball, and it gets very tough. Simmer it. Keep it a low simmer. I hope by now all of you've got good digital thermometers. And try to keep it in the 180 to 190 range. That's fine. It's going to be perfectly pasteurized. Bacteria can't survive anything over 165 or so. So keep that temperature down. Don't boil it. Just simmer it. And you'll notice that the water is getting colored from the salt and the protein juices coming out. Change the water while you're simmering it. Change it a couple of times during the process. And bring that meat up to whatever the water temp is. So if you're simmering at 190, bring the meat up to 190. When the meat hits 190, it's ready to serve. But you want to get your potatoes, your carrots, and your cabbage in there. Don't put them in at the same time as the meat. The meat needs hours to get tender and to get up to temp because it's a big, thick piece of meat. And it's full of water to begin with. It's 75% water, and it takes a long time for water to heat up. So wait for an hour or so, and then you add the carrots and the potatoes because they take a long time to cook. The bigger the chunks of the potatoes, the longer they take to cook. Don't add the cabbage until about 30 minutes before you serve, because the cabbage will totally disintegrate and get mushy. And it's nice to have a little crunch to the cabbage. Now, so you're gonna simmer the corned beef and change the water a couple of times. Bring it up to about 190, 200. Don't let it boil. And you're going to add the carrots and the potatoes after an hour or so, and then the cabbage at the last minute, maybe 30, 40 minutes before you're ready to serve. Then when you pull it out of there, just beware. There's a lot of fat on the top and in the center. And oh, by the way, when you're shopping for corned beef, usually you're going to get 3 to 5 pound bags. If you know anything about brisket, if you don't, go to my website and learn about brisket. But there's 2 muscles. There's what's called the flat, and I'm demonstrating here with my hand, and that's the flat muscle, and then the point, which sits on top of it at a slight angle. And between them is a really thick layer of fat. And often you'll get a section that has a little bit of both muscles. The flat is fairly lean. The point has got a little more marbling and it's fatter and juicier. If you can get just point, go for it. But often you'll get a little bit of each, but that means you're going to get that thick layer of fat in between. So you need to peel that out of there. Nobody wants to eat that fat. It's disgusting. And you don't need that package of seasonings. It's just not getting into the meat. That's an affectation. You can discard them. And you'll have marvelous corned beef this way. Now, the other thing to do with corned beef is to desalinate by putting it in cold water overnight, change the water a couple of times, and then grill it. Or better still, smoke it. Keep it at a low temp, around 225 or 200. Bring it up to about 200 internal temperature, smoke it, and in the process, when it gets to about 150 or 160 and it's getting a nice dark color, wrap it in aluminum foil tight, and that will kind of steam it and braise it in that bag, and it's going to come out wubba wubba tender, and it's fantastic. Now, if you're going to smoke your corned beef, you might as well now go all the way. Go to AmazingRibs.com. Look up the pastrami rub. It's a recipe for how to make a special rub. It's got a lot of coriander, black pepper, a little mustard seed, and you're going to put this stuff all heavily on the outside, and you're going to smoke this, wrap it in foil, and I have the whole recipe for pastrami. It's called Close to Katz's Pastrami. You're going to wrap it in foil, and you bring it up to around 200, 205, and you're going to go straight to heaven. And you can just eat it in slices like you would a brisket, or you can make what is my all-time favorite sandwich, a Reuben sandwich. Now, technically, a Reuben sandwich is made with corned beef. But remember, pastrami is just smoked corned beef with a special rub on it. So you can make your pastrami Reuben, and you just do that with the slices of pastrami. You make a little Thousand Island or Russian dressing, which is usually just, ketchup or barbecue sauce with mayonnaise and maybe some pickle relish. I've got recipes for all this stuff. With some Swiss cheese and some sauerkraut. And don't buy the canned sauerkraut. Get the stuff out of the refrigerator section. It's usually in a plastic bag. Fresh sauerkraut. It's crunchy and it's much better. And you on rye bread, on a good rye bread or a marble rye. And now you've got the world's greatest sandwich. And that's what you want for St. Patrick's Day. A homemade pastrami Reuben. Oh my goodness, you have never... And if you don't agree with me when you're done, that this is better than Texas brisket, well, I'll just eat my hat, or I'll eat my pastrami. It's just so good. And you'll love it. And you might even want to practice beforehand because it's so good. What you're going to want to do is corned beef goes on sale in the first few weeks of March because it's, the traditional St. Patrick's Day celebration. And that's how the grocery stores drag you in. They put corned beef on sale. stock up. Buy a bunch of those bags. It freezes just fine. Just freeze that corned beef, and you'll have pastrami all year round. Right now, my wife actually, I asked her to get me some the other day because we are formulating you may know, and this fall we introduced 3 rubs and a sauce. Red meat, poultry, pork, and then a Kansas City sauce. We introduced those this fall. They're really good. We're bringing out a pastrami rub. And I asked my wife when she was out shopping if she'd bring me a corned beef. She came back and said, "You won't believe how expensive that stuff is." Well, it's going to be cheap soon. So go get it. Stock up on it. Make pastrami. If what I just said is confusing, it's all on AmazingRibs.com. Go to the pastrami page. The search engine, by the way, we switched to WordPress in spring last year, and the search engine is so much better than it ever was. Just type pastrami in the search engine. You'll get there. It really is a great technique, and you'll thank me. You'll absolutely thank me. Okay, well, that's my little monologue intro. And let me just go back and see how many questions we've got on the topic. Oh my goodness, we have Tim from New Zealand. Hello, Tim. We got somebody from Australia, England, New Zealand. What else we got? Questions. San Pedro from Honduras. Goodness gracious. Okay. By the way, I got to apologize to those of you who come on a regular basis. I know, Brad, you've been here before, and several of you guys. Last month, I got notes from, "Are you okay, Meathead? Where were you? You were supposed to be here last month." This is supposed to be like every last Thursday of the month. And I've been doing this for a while. Well, we had a big dinner. And guess what happened? The old man dozed off after dinner and didn't wake up until after I left. I stood you guys up. I'm so sorry. In any case, I'll try not to let that happen. I'm setting alarms now. So, in any case. Okay, Ryan Leal. I'm having a hard time getting my slow and sear Kamado up to 325 on the indirect side using the slow and sear for chicken and turkey. Okay, so just background. I generally recommend 225 for most things and 325 for poultry because you need the extra heat to render fat from the skin and make it crispy. Now, I know there's a big trend out there to cooking a little hotter than that for things like brisket and pulled pork. But I think the key here is I need you guys to learn fire control and get management over your cookers. So I want you to learn 2 temperatures, 225 and 325. If you can do those 2 temperatures in rain, in snow, in sleet, in hot, and you can manage then you're fine. So we're sticking with those 2 temps. Getting up to 325 is the right step for chicken and turkey, Ryan. And he's having trouble. He's got the slow and sear Kamado, which is a great Kamado, and you can set that Kamado up in 2 zones, contrary to what I was saying earlier. And in fact, it's designed for being set up in 2 zones. My instincts are, I don't know quite what you're doing, but in general, if you can't get enough heat, give her all she's got, Scotty. More charcoal. Load in more charcoal. Now, if you're following his technique of unlit charcoal and lit charcoal, then just use more lit charcoal. But you need more temperature. You need more heat. And make sure there's two elements to that fire to heat: charcoal and oxygen. So give more of each. So fiddle with and practice. You don't need food in there. Just go out there one day and practice with more charcoal and more oxygen, and practice getting it up to temp. Once you've got it up to temp, then you put the food in. You don't have to waste food. Learn to dial in your machine. Okay. Brian says he's tried his own bacon, a lot of work. You didn't try my recipes. My recipe is really easy. Yeah, he likes Newski's. You didn't spell it right, Brad. Newski's, yeah, really great bacon. But try my recipe, Brad. It's really good. And there's a recipe there for regular old-fashioned American bacon, and there's an Asian-flavored bacon and a maple-flavored, and they're really good. They're really good. Yeah, okay, Sila. Yeah, constant flipping. I've been preaching this for years. He's talking about thick steaks. Reverse sear for a thick steak. Start it at a low temperature, warm it gently, and then move it over to high heat. Start at low temperature, reverse sear. When it's on the direct heat and you're doing the sear, flip, 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 flip. And with the lid open, And the theory here is, and this is against what everybody's been saying for years, all your early barbecue cookbooks, and I think I've convinced most of them to change their thinking, is you're hitting the steak with powerful infrared energy from below. And if you leave it sit there, that energy is going to slowly penetrate, and it's going to turn the meat brown as it overcooks. If you flip, then that energy that is browned to the surface, which you want, is now going to bleed off into the atmosphere and not push down into that meat, which is 75% water, and heat doesn't travel well through it. So when you flip, you're dissipating the energy and you're concentrating all the energy on the surface. So you're getting a good dark brown surface, but you're not cooking the interior. And that's the key to not overcooking the interior of your thick steaks. Start it on the indirect side, away from the heat, gently warm it, bring it up to about 120, 125, then move it over to the direct energy side and flip, flip, flip until you get her up to about 130, which is classic medium rare, and you got a good dark surface. And when you cut into that baby, it's going to be medium rare, edge to edge, with a great dark crust. Okay. Okay, we have some idiots who are in here from one of the other services, which if they continue, I'm just going to cut them all off. Vladdy is my daddy. Oh, okay, that's really clever, really cute. Putin's large missile. Well, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, but we do have a connection to, what the hell is that service called? I forget. But guess what? I just turned it off. They're gone. All right. So much for them. Idiots. Okay. A few minutes ago you mentioned a Hasty or something like that grill. How good is it because of its shape? Could you please repeat? Hasty Bake. HASTYBAKE. We test and review grills on AmazingRibs.com. And so if you go to AmazingRibs.com and you look up Hasty Bake, you'll see our reviews of all of them and then a link to their website. We don't sell any of them. We don't sell anything. So you can go check up the Hasty Bakes. They're just amazing machines. They ain't cheap, but they're absolutely the best charcoal grills out there. Okay. Keith is asking if I tried Corsi's bacon. No, I'm not familiar with it. I know Newski's, which is the one Brad was talking about. And I only corrected your spelling, Brad, because you're a wannabe author now. Brad's done a home recipe cookbook, which is really nice. I have a copy. He sent me a signed copy, and he's already sold 2,500 copies. Nice work. Most cookbooks don't go beyond 10,000, 20,000. I'm very pleased to say that my cookbook, there it is, Meathead, has just passed 250,000 copies. Okay. More questions. I think I have covered most of the questions so far. Tim Morgan, gotta? You're questioning, damn Yankees destroy the Queen's English. They need to be stopped. Well, Tim, you know how to stop me? Log off. Gotta. Yes, I say gotta. Bye, Tim. Get out of here. Queen's English. I live in the United States. We don't speak the Queen's English. We speak our own English. Okay. Come on, guys, hit me. You got to have some more questions. What else can I rant on? Here's an interesting topic. The very smart people at Fireboard are introducing a new instant read thermometer, and I haven't gotten my hands on it yet, but the guy who tests thermometers for us has tested it and loves it. Go to our website and search for Fireboard and look at their new instant read thermometer. It's, I think, actually, from what he says, better than a Thermapen. And Thermapen has been, for many years, the gold standard for instant read thermometers. So check them out. They also make a remote read thermometer, which has been the best in breed for several years. It's got 6 probes. It's about the size of a deck of cards. It speaks to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Their remote read thermometer is top of the line, but they now have an instant read, which is just brilliant. Some new stuff on AmazingRibs.com. If any of you know about Greg Rempe's Tuesday Barbecue Central podcast, Greg's been doing it for many years. It's the best broadcast out there, along with Jeff Tracy's radio show out of Oregon. But the two of these guys, I was on Greg Rempe, and Greg asked me, what is my favorite thing to grill? And in a moment of honesty and stupidity, I confessed, pineapple. God, I love pineapple on the grill. Now, if you have never taken a slice of pineapple and thrown it on the grill and flipped it until it is golden and then bitten into that juicy piece of candy, you don't know what I'm talking about. But my goodness, that is fantastic. Well, Greg just went berserk. And the conversation was recorded, and he had a cartoonist draw the conversation. If you go to AmazingRibs.com and search for pineapple, you'll see this conversation rendered by a cartoonist. But I also surrounded it with some pineapple recipes and how I like to grill pineapple, because you can have fun with it. You can paint it with liqueur. I like to paint my pineapple with a little amaretto. My friends at the Chicago Culinary Kitchen will take a whole pineapple, rotisserie it, paint it with Captain Morgan's fiery hot pep. I forget what it is. It's Captain Morgan's hot stuff. And they pack it with brown sugar. And oh my goodness, that is stuff is awesome. But one of the coolest things I ever had was pineapple Foster. And this was at a restaurant called Strip Steak in Waikiki. Now, there are several strip steak restaurants. There's one in Vegas. Michael Mina owns them, and he's a brilliant chef. But this was, my wife and I took a vacation to Waikiki a few years ago, and we ordered the dessert, which they made. It was like bananas Foster, only it was pineapple Foster. And I've got a video of the guy doing this tableside, because it's the classic cool tableside dessert preparation, pineapples Foster or bananas Foster, only he does it with pineapple. And they make a caramel sauce and they flame the big flames. And the recipe for pineapple Foster and the video of how to make it is on our website now, and it is fun. So Check it out. Brad, you're using the rubs. You like the poultry on veggies. Yeah, it is good on veggies. I agree. Thank you. You know, all my life, I have told anyone, if I catch you putting anything on a steak other than salt and pepper, I'm going to slap you silly. Well, this red meat rub, forgive me, I don't normally do commercials here, but this red meat rub on a steak is just breathtakingly good. My wife won't let me cook a steak with anything but this anymore. And I buy USDA prime steaks, 28-day wet aged, and they are brilliant with that stuff on it. Check them out. They're we don't actually sell them ourselves. We have a link through to a company that sells them. But there's information about them, all the ingredients and stuff on AmazingRibs.com. Mike Sid from the Nutmeg State. Now, I know about a lot of nuthead states. What is the Nutmeg State? Who can help me? What is the Nutmeg State? Gosh, I'm kind of one of the... If you have a game of trivia going on, you want me on your side. What is the Nutmeg State? Well, have I done Flatiron Wagyu? No. I haven't... I've done every cut of Wagyu known to man except Flatiron. Wagyu is it's a descendant of the Japanese breed of steaks. It's not exactly the same steer as they use in Japan, but it's related to it. And in this country, most Wagyu is actually Wangus. It's Wagyu and Angus crossbred, and they do that because of the temperature, the climate, and a variety of other things. And it's a variety, a breed of steak that is really highly marbled. And to me, it's just a little too marbly. It's really a wonderful experience. And if you can, get yourself a really good Wagyu ribeye at least once or twice and try it, because they're extraordinary. They're unctuous, they're rich, they're succulent. But I can't eat them all the time. They're just a little kind of over the top, you know, a little too aggressive. But I have fallen in love with Wagyu flank steak. Now, flank steak is a fairly lean cut, and it tends to be tough, but it loves high heat, and it's not too thick, so you can cook it hot and fast. And I just love flank steaks. But the Wagyu flank steak is just optimum fattiness. It's not too fatty like a Wagyu ribeye. So if you have a chance, I've been buying them from Allen Brothers online. Snake River Farms sells them, and several other. But if you can get a Wagyu flank steak, and then you get your charcoal or your gas grill, but charcoal would be my preference, as hot as you can possibly get it. And then you put this baby on, if you can, use my red meat rub. Because this red meat rub loves high heat. It can handle it. Doesn't burn. And lid off, high heat, flip frequently, get it dark on the exterior, and 130 in the center, and then slice it across the grain. It's absolutely crucial that you cut flank steak across the grain. If you cut it with the grain, it's lengthy and stringy, sticks in your teeth, and it's unchewable. But if you can get your hands on a Wagyu flank steak, oh my goodness. Okay. Tim is apologizing for giving me grief over Gata. He said, just pulling your leg, meat leg. I think that's a typo, but that's a good typo, Tim. Meat leg. I've heard of, hollow legs, I do enjoy my wine. I probably do have a hollow leg. Steve McStevens, one of the best veggies to grill, in my opinion. They really grill well, and Steve Rakeland just did a book on grilling veggies. My wife is a master gardener. She actually has a degree from the University of Illinois. She's a PhD microbiologist, but she just finished her certificate in retirement to become a master gardener, and she has a large garden. She'll let me in there occasionally to weed, but she's in charge of gardening. And come August around here, I am veghead. I'll tell you, there are weeks when we don't eat any meat because when the vegetables are rocking, we love them, and I grill them. Of course, zucchinis are really good on the grill. They're firm and they handle it well, and so you cut them into planks and you grill them up. And I just love grilled veggie sandwiches. So zucchinis and eggplants and tomatoes are all ripe around the same time, and I'll grill all three of them and put them on a baguette or a torpedo roll. And I'll take a little mayonnaise and a couple of drops of sesame oil, so there's a little sesame flavor in there on the bread. Grill the bread, and then boy, that's a great sandwich. Eggplant is great on the grill, and on AmazingRibs.com there's a really good recipe for grilled eggplant parmesan, and it's not fried. You don't get all of the calories from all of that fat, and it's just really wonderful grilling it because you get all these nice flavors. And I even make the tomato sauce on the grill. What else do we like to grill? Of course, we grill peppers all the time, and when I'm doing lamb chops or steak, we'll often grill a red pepper and just throw it on top. They're wonderful. What else? Of course, mushrooms technically aren't a vegetable, but they're good. Potatoes are good. Potatoes, generally, it's a good idea to parboil them. They take forever to grill. They're just so dense and woody. But if you parboil them and get them halfway, and then you slice them and you throw them on the grill, you can season them. And I like my pork rub on potatoes, and the poultry rub is really good on veggies too. So the nutmeg state is Connecticut, Steve says. And I recognize your name, Steve. I've seen you here before, I think. Steve Liguri, I'm sorry. Connecticut is the nutmeg state. Who knew? That's a nice spiced nutmeg. I have a little nutmeg grinder. You take the whole nutmeg and put it in there and grind it, and it's kind of fun, showy around Christmas time when you do the eggnog and you grind the fresh nutmeg into it. Okay, good question from Blue Dog Ron. He's looking at the pastrami recipe now, and it says to smoke it at 225 until it reaches about 160 internal temperature, wrap it in foil tight, and take it up to 203. Do you keep the cooking temp still at 225? I like to keep the temperature low. When you heat meats with high temperatures, the proteins shrink and they squeeze out their moisture. So I just like to keep it low. But once you wrap it in foil, you can bring it indoors because it doesn't matter. You can pop it in the oven. It's not going to benefit from grill or smoker. Doesn't matter. So you can shut down your grill or your smoker and bring it indoors once you wrap it in foil. But yeah, I try to keep the temp down. Now, if you're in a hurry, crank it. Once it's wrapped in foil, it cooks a lot faster because you're trapping all the moisture in there, and it's getting a little steam, and it's also slightly braising in the liquid in there, so it's cool. Oh, you put nutmeg in your Alfredo sauce, Steve says. Yeah, I can't wait for spring because we love doing Alfredos in spring with lots of fresh vegetables. When we can find fiddlehead ferns in spring, oh boy, that's the way to do Alfredo. I've never grilled fiddleheads, but I'll bet they will grill. I mean, they're a lot like asparagus in that regard. So, oh gosh, grilling. Somebody asked about grilling vegetables. Asparagus. Yeah. I just hit them with a little oil. And again, I'm sorry to say, I'm not. The recipe. All right, background. these 3 recipes for rubs are based on the recipes that are on AmazingRibs.com. I'm trying to make a buck, so I'm not duplicating the recipes that I give away for free on AmazingRibs.com. So there's a lot of smoked ingredients in here and a couple of other new ingredients. So they're not identical, but they're based on them. So, although the red meat rub doesn't have anything on the site. But the pork rub is really close to Memphis dust on the website. And I've been using that on my asparagus for years. Also, broccoli is good on the grill. And cauliflower, I like to break it into small florets, but I know people, and I've done it myself, who will actually smoke a whole head of cauliflower. And that's really quite a show when you bring it out. Just amber and golden, and if you've cooked it thoroughly, it just cuts real easy. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Okay. Salala is saying his favorite way of cooking is constant flip method. I did address this earlier, but if you've got a thick steak, constant flip is a good part of the second step. Go read my article on reverse sear or on my steak cooking techniques. You definitely want a constant flip, but I won't do it through the whole cook. You'll either burn the exterior or you will overcook at least 1/4 of an inch. Start it on the indirect side, then on the direct side, and constant flip. You'll do better. There you go. Charlotte Sharp is here. Charlotte is she's our social. Anybody looking for a social media maven? Reach out to me. Charlotte is our social media maven, and she's here, and she likes to do pastrami with grilled cabbage and honey butter, and I like that idea, Charlotte. Honey butter on grilled cabbage. Yeah, honey butter is really good on grilled cauliflower too. Honey butter is good on everything, frankly. Although Charlotte, who is English by birth, I go for the Lyle's Golden Syrup as much as I do for the honey. And for those of you who have never encountered Lyle's Golden Syrup, it's technically it's called a treacle. It's made from sugar, white sugar, but it's amber in color and has a butterscotchy flavor. You'll find it on Amazon or in stores that specialize in products from England and Ireland and Scotland. I think it's made in England. Lyle's Golden Syrup. What a treat that stuff is. Use it where you might use honey. It has a stronger flavor and it's really nice. And whenever I use my Lyle's Golden Syrup, I think of Charlotte, who is English. Yeah, okay, Charlotte. I'm so glad you're here to help me out, Charlotte. She's talking about the pork rub on salmon. Yeah, in fact, I've done smoked salmon with the pork rub, and it's just totally awesome. Okay, Nathan Tracy, please settle a debate between me and my wife. Prime rib or strip loin roast? Oh my. That's blondes or brunettes and redheads, That's a tough one. It's the same muscle. It's exactly the same muscle. It's all right, you can't visualize the back of someone. And this person has a spine. And if you look at somebody's back with their shirt off, you'll see the spine muscle. The spine, the bone. On either side of the spine, there's this tubular muscle that runs from the shoulder to the hips. And that's the longissimus dorsi. And beef and hogs and lambs, they all have that same muscle, the longissimus dorsi. It's that tubular muscle that runs right alongside the spine. You got 2 of them, one on either side. And the ribeye is the upper portion from the shoulder down to the bottom of the rib cage. And the strip loin is from the rib cage to the hips. And it's the same muscle. It's a little chewier and leaner the closer you get to the hips, the strip loin. But it doesn't have that thick fat layer. There's actually 2 muscles. There's the spinalis, which is a curved muscle that lays on top. And if you've got a ribeye, you've noticed this. You have this tube in the center, then you got a thick layer of fat, and then you got a curved muscle on top. That thicker layer of fat and that curved muscle don't exist down below on the strip loin. It's pure meat. It's just a pure muscle. So personally, I prefer the ribeye because it's a little fattier and it's a little richer in flavor. But lately, I've been buying a lot of strip steaks. Now, if you're talking strictly about roasts, the same argument holds true. But, I cook a beef roast every year for Christmas. And, oh, boy, I go out and I buy the aged, prime, break the bank. I'm cooking for the family, and I got to impress. And so I do it upright, and I spend a fortune on the Christmas roasts. And I buy rib roasts usually. Bone. Well, I'll buy them with the bone in, but I take the bone out, and I set the bone aside. In fact, I've got some of those in the freezer. I got to remember to cook some of them out. Take the bone out, and I cook the bones because that's a good meal all by itself. There's a lot of meat in between those bones, and so I just cook the meat, and that way the bones don't prevent the surface from browning. You get more surface, more browning. The issue with doing a whole roast is when you slice it, the edges are the only part that are brown. You have all this gorgeous, rosy meat in between. But if you do a ribeye steak, which is to say you slice it before you roast it, then you have the surface of both sides are brown. You get a lot more brown. You get a lot more crust, and I love the crust. So, if given a choice, ribeye or rib roast, I'll take the ribeye steak, or the strip steak, or the strip roast over the strip roast. So I don't think it's a huge difference. Now, here's what you do. You cook one of each, and you have somebody serve them to you in a blind tasting. Okay. Nathan, Blue Dog Ron is saying, Nathan, for me, it's the home cut prime rib from the roast. Yeah. Okay, Salala is, I've read for sure. I do it for the whole cook. I've done reverse steak, which I also love. No, in Rex, I've really try it on the grill. Yeah, try it. Okay, well, we're coming up on the end of the first hour here. I usually go an hour and a half because there's a lot of questions. We're scheduled for an hour, and if we run out of questions, we'll call it a night. But if you keep hitting me with your questions, I'll stick around. I still got a little wine left, so hit me with your best shot, guys. Oh, wait a minute, I missed Mark Rogers' question. A big-time fan. Thank you, Mark. What is the best way to get your baby back ribs to fall off the bone? I can wrap them and cook for a couple hours more, but then my bark is soggy. Well, okay, you're out of Plano, Texas. Generally, and I'm going to be a little snotty myself. I personally, I don't want my meat to fall off the bone. I want it to be tender. I think, in general, pork meat should be similar texture to beef meat. That is to say, it should have some chew. Usually, when ribs fall off the bone, it's because they've been steamed. Now, if you wrap them in foil and leave them in foil, there's a technique called the 3-2-1 method. And anybody who loves barbecue will tell you, don't do it. 2 hours wrapped in the foil is just too long, and that's when the meat falls off. But basically, you're steaming and boiling and braising the meat. A better technique for baby backs is 3 hours without wrapping, maybe 1 hour wrapped, and then 1 hour outside the wrap to firm up the bark. But the key here is when you wrap meat in foil, which is a good technique for brisket, and some people do it for ribs. It does tenderize the meat somewhat, but it does soften the bark. And so what you do is, as you're done with it in the foil, you take it out and then you put it back on the smoker, and that dries out the surface. Bark is jerky. Bark is the surface of the meat that is dried out. It's like jerky. When the surface of the meat dries out, it gets a little crunchy and it gets dark brown. That's the Maillard reaction. It's the umami flavor. It's marvelous. And some people like a really good chewy bark. But when you wrap it in foil, which is called the Texas crutch, and we discussed this on AmazingRibs.com, it's a good way for tenderizing the meat after it's got a good smoke flavor and it's turned color. You wrap it in foil for an hour, and then you unwrap it and you put it back on there so you can dry out the surface and firm up the bark. And that's the technique. Okay. Now you've revealed that you are on top of the situation, Mark. Now you're asking foil or butcher paper. I've fiddled with both, and I don't see a huge difference. I just use foil. I think the key is to get a good tight wrap, and foil is easy to work with. So I just use foil. A lot of people wrap it in butcher paper. Hold on. Here you go. Pink. Well, covered with dust. You can see how often I use it. It's a pink butcher paper from Texas, and a lot of people like to use that instead of foil. And actually, this is interesting. Reynolds, the aluminum foil company, has come out with pink butcher paper in a dispenser box, just like their aluminum foil, just for us barbecue people. Play with both. Do 2 slabs of ribs, wrap one in foil, wrap one in butcher paper, and let me know what you like best. Okay. Okie dokie. Well, we've kind of run out on questions. Let me before I don't want to cheat you guys, but if we don't have too many more questions, then I'm gonna just relax and sip a glass of wine and get ready for bed. I'm an early to bed, early to rise kind of guy, so hit me with a couple more questions and then we'll wrap up. You got any more? What's bugging you guys? Besides Ukraine. Yeah, Steve Licori says everyone he cooks for likes the ribs to fall off the bone. Yeah, just get them tender. Get a nice chew. Get a good flavor on them. If they want them to fall off the bone, then just leave them in the foil longer. I'm a strong believer in cooking for other people. I think that's a real expression of love. And I'm a firm believer in, if they like Mogan David, that's what I'll serve. I love to make my guests happy. So maybe there's a middle ground. Tender, but not falling off the bone. Keith asks, what brand of charcoal do I like? Man, now you got me into something that'll take a half hour here, Keith. I believe charcoal is for heat. Wood is for flavor. Charcoal is for heat. Wood is for flavor. I don't care what charcoal. I don't want flavor from my charcoal. In fact, that's why one of the reasons why I prefer briquettes. Because briquettes are carbonized all throughout. When I buy lump charcoal, often it is not fully carbonized. Often it smokes excessively. I have no idea what the source of wood is in there. It snap, crackle, pops. They're baseball-sized chunks, softball-sized chunks, and thumbnail-sized chunks. Briquettes are all uniform in size, and I am a control freak. I want total control over what I'm cooking. So I buy pretty much whatever charcoal is on sale because I'm just using it for heat. It's just there for energy. And I like charcoal because I get more energy from charcoal than I do from my gas grill. My gas grill just does not produce the same amount of energy. Now, I have a Heston, and it has an infrared burner. And that's like one of these little honeycomb things. If you've never seen them, it's capable of putting out jet engine heat. So most gas grills rather, just cannot generate enough energy to get a really good dark sear in a hurry. So that's one of the reasons I prefer charcoal, not for its flavor. And in fact, when you get charcoal fully ignited, where it's coated with a gray ash coating, it's not making much flavor. It's the fat and the juices that drip on it that make flavor. So I use mostly Kingsford, and lately I've been buying their professional or their competition, I forget what they call it, which in theory has fewer binders. Not because I'm concerned about what's in the charcoal and it's going to poison me or kill me, but some of the cheaper charcoals have a lot of binders in them, which make more ash. And so I buy as pure a charcoal as I can. B&B charcoal is a really good brand. I buy that, but I don't obsess over the charcoal. But I do make sure I have good dry wood, and I use wood. How would I cook a breast of veal on a Traeger? Oh, that's a good question. Veal is really a white meat, and it's a delicate white meat, and I would treat it as I might pork. And you've also got to be careful. There's a lot of fat and sinew in there, and bones. A breast of veal is a brisket, essentially, although it often has bones. I would absolutely season it. I would use probably a pork rub, and I would low and slow smoke it. Although I just asked my wife next time she's out, she does a lot of the grocery shopping when she's out shopping, to pick up a breast of veal, because I want to make veal meatballs. We went to an Italian restaurant the other night, and they made veal meatballs, and they were heavenly. I'm thinking that a breast of veal is going to be just the right mix of lean and fat to make meatballs. So if you're not committed to roasting it and smoking it or grilling it, you might consider stripping it down and making meatballs out of it, or even burgers, or even a meatloaf. What do you think about that? Okay, Mark Rogers, you have stepped on it. You have got me going. Okay, Mark, I'm not going to read the whole question here, but Mark is into making grill marks. When you continuously flip, you have unimpressive grill marks. I hate grill marks. And I've written about this. Go to AmazingRibs.com and type grill marks in the search box. Here's the theory. Wait a second. Let's just see if I can share the screen. How do I do that on this device? Yes, I can. No, I don't want to capture the screen. I can't do that. I'm not going to do... Whoa. Yeah, well, there you go. All right, that's not what I meant to do. When you brown meat, you create new flavors. It's called the Maillard reaction. It's a chemical reaction where the proteins and the amino acids and the sugars alter, and they get brown, and they are flavorful. And so I like brown meat, I like a brown surface on my steak. Grill marks are when the hot metal has branded the meat and created stripes of brown. Well, I want the meat brown all over. The more brown, the better. I don't want stripes of brown because those little tan squares in between the grill marks are not very flavorful. It's unfulfilled potential. So I hate grill marks. I work to avoid them. That's one of the reasons I recommend flip, flip, flip. Because then you expose more of the surface to infrared energy and you get a darker surface. Now, I'm not going to get deep into it because it's a lengthy discussion and I've done it in these sessions before, but there's three kinds of energy on your grill. There's convection airflow, which is hot air, and that's a very low level of energy. And then there's conduction energy, which is the hot metal touching the food, branding the food, because hot metal conducts energy a lot more than air does. And then there's infrared, which is the exposure to glowing coals or flame. And to make the quick summary, the example I've often used is go to your stove, turn your stove on, set it for around 200, 225. When it comes up to temp, open the door and stick your arm in. You can do this. It's not going to catch on fire and you're not going to burn and get blisters. You can actually hold your arm in a 200-degree oven or so for a few minutes maybe. Now, while your hand is in there, touch the side of the oven. When you get back from the hospital, you'll know that 225-degree metal conducts energy differently than 225-degree air. They're both 225, the metal and the air. But the metal is conducting more energy. Well, infrared radiation is what you get when you're hovering over the coals or the flame. Think about going outside on a hot sunny day and you're standing out in the sun and it's beating down on the back of your neck. Now, we know there's ultraviolet in the sun. That's what causes sunburn. But what you're really feeling is infrared. What you're feeling is the energy of the sun, infrared energy. And that's what you get when you expose meat to coals or to flame, is infrared energy. Now step into the shade. You're out there on the same day. It's the same temperature outside. But you've shaded yourself from the infrared energy. That's the same thing as cooking on the indirect side of the grill, away from the coals. That's cooking in the shade. Okay? So, what's all this about? When you want all maximum flavor, you want, and I have pictures of this on the website, and I wish I knew how to do a screen share with that. This is not Zoom. There ought to be. I'm not going to waste your time trying to figure out how. But I have pictures of steaks that are just absolutely gorgeous. Dark mahogany, edge to edge. That's maximum flavor. I don't want those grill marks because that's minimum flavor. Now, they may be impressive, and we are trained. When you go to the restaurant, in fact, go to AmazingRibs.com and type grill marks into the search engine. And I have pictures of steaks from all the best steakhouses in America. You won't find any grill marks. Okay? Just a thought. Egg terror. You're asking Greg. I don't know who Greg is. I'm Meathead. I am new to smoking. What do you think of the pit barrel cooker for a novice? I don't know who Greg is, but I'll answer if you'd like. I love the pit barrel. And one of the reasons I do is because you're cooking right over charcoal. And the juices drip. It's a cheap unit. It's like under $400 delivered to your door, shipping included. Requires no fuss, no muss, no fancy setup. Pull it out of the box and start cooking. It's really hard to screw up. And it makes great food, just absolutely great food. Can't recommend it more highly. Love it. Get one. Now, if you have more money, there are other devices out there that I think may be better, but in its price category, and even in a category a little higher, it's just a really nice unit. Really nice unit. Really easy to work with, too. Really nice people, too. Built here in the USA. Nice machines. Okay. Well, I think we have covered all your questions. Oops, just hit the wrong button. Before I hang up here, let's just see if I can figure. I'm using a program called Ecamm Live, which is great. It's on a Mac. It's how I can do all this cool stuff. And I know there's a way to share the screen, but I don't know for sure how. And what's this button do? Oh, okay, that's not it. It's got all these buttons here. What button do I? Oh, no, I don't think that's the right button. Okay, I got my tricycle going there. Stick with me. I'm just going to see if I can find out. Just looking at the menus for a screen share option. Oh, new screen share overlay. Yeah, okay. Open system. Oh, now I gotta fiddle with my system preferences? Okay. Wait a second. Okay, now I think I can do a screen share. Alright, well, it wants me to quit in order to do that. Yeah, it was a setting and I'm not set up for it, so I'm not going to quit. Oh. Are you seeing a screen? Ew. That's cool. Well, that's not what we want. Oh, well. Now I've really got things screwed up. All right, guys. I think I've reached my technological expertise level. Thank you very much. Hey, I've had fun tonight. Always good talking to you. I appreciate the good questions. Go check out AmazingRibs.com. If you haven't bought the book, I strongly recommend you get a look at it because it has a lot of these concepts in a really good, orderly fashion. And sign up for our newsletter, Smoke Signals. We tell you when we publish new articles, new recipes, new tips and techniques, new books, new fun things. And we have some new deep dive guides. They're out there on Amazon and Apple Books. They're $3.99 a piece, or they're free if you're a member of the Pitmaster Club. We have our new sauce and rubs. Strongly recommend you take a crack at them. I'm very proud of them. We worked very hard. Took us a year to get the recipes down pat and everything. And if you have any questions, you can reach me. Go to AmazingRibs.com. On every page, there's a place for you to post comments and ask questions. And thank you very much. And I will not sleep through last Thursday. We'll see you on the final Thursday of next month. Good night, everybody, and have a good weekend.
That's all for now, folks. Thanks for staying awake, and please visit AmazingRibs.com for the articles, recipes, and reviews mentioned in this chat with the Barbecue Whisperer and Hedonism Evangelist from AmazingRibs.com, the planet's biggest and baddest barbecue and grilling website, Meathead.
It's a game of time and time. You can hurry ribs. No, you just have to wait. Just trust in the low and slow, no matter how long